name is Thais Gibson.
Thais Gibson.
Thais Gibson.
Thais Gibson.
Thais Gibson.
Thais Gibson.
I hope I pronounce her name properly. Thais Gibson.
I am so excited for you to be here with me today. Thank you for joining us. So I am so excited to have you here today. I'm really excited, especially to dive into the topic of burnout and the nervous system and how this is really affecting so many different individuals. So just to kick off, I obviously went through the introduction, shared a little bit about you, but I just would love to hear how you got into this whole line of work and what your background is that really led you into this.
Yeah. So I was born on a rainy Wednesday in 1979. Wait, did you want me to go that far back or wait, what? So we can fast forward a couple years. The fast forward is this. I grew up actually quite sick. I had IBS and the concurrent depression and anxiety that comes with having a hot mess microbiome. Yeah. And I spent decades trying to get help from the Western medical system. And as so many of us know, it never came, right? I never got robust support that really helped me feel better. So being the little Leo that I am, I took matters into my own hands and I got a degree in public health. I studied medicine. I'm sure you read my bona fides already. And I studied medicine because if no one else was going to help me, I was going to help me, right? So I wanted to understand anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, what was going on. In that process, I learned not just about Western medicine, but about functional and holistic medicine. I became an herbalist. I really cast a really broad net when it came to my healing, knowing that I wanted to be of service, right? Since I was a little girl, I've always just loved giving and volunteering and helping others. And I'm sure we can talk about my attachment style and what that's all about. But I knew I wanted to be of service through medicine and health. And so in all this training, I came to understand what was going on in my physiology. But the part I was lacking and what kept my own symptoms coming back and kept my patients' symptoms coming back was somatics, was the nervous system, was the limbic system, was the psychological, physiologic, body-mind underpinnings of it all. Because I was finding the right parasite. I was finding the parasite, the bacteria, the virus, the whatever was causing the tummy troubles at the cellular level.
Yes.
But then a body that's not in ventral vagal is not a body that digests very well, right?
Okay, so you just touched on so many matters that are dear to my heart. So can we we're going to take a quick detour here. Can you just explain for anybody who's like, what are you talking about with the microbiome? What are you talking about? Just for a moment because you dropped some bombs in passing. You were like, of course, with anybody with bad microbiome who then struggles with depression and anxiety. So can you just those two for people who are not familiar with this concept?
With endless joy. You're asking me to nerd out. I will always say many thanks, doctor. So our gut microbiome is the good bacteria that live in our gut. We have so many microbiomes, a skin microbiome, a vaginal microbiome, our eyes have a microbiome. There are way more bacteria in and on us than, they're uncountable. They number in the majillions. That's a word I just invented. And these bacteria are our friends. When they are in balance, they help keep us safe. They help, when the skin barrier, right? They keep us safe by not letting stuff come in. They keep our digestion humming along. And they are part and parcel of creating our neurotransmitters. So when we look at, and we'll have another conversation about the serotonin hypothesis as a hypothesis, but our serotonin, our dopamine, our oxytocin, all of these hormones, these neurotransmitters that help us to feel good, grounded, safe, connected in the world, they are made up because our gut microbiome is doing the incredible job of sending the signals throughout the body to make them. So when your gut microbiome is not happy, it's hard, physiologically speaking, for you to be happy because you're not getting the happy juice that your brain needs and your neurotransmitters need.
Exactly. And I think this is something that has such a massive impact on people's mental health, and yet they have no idea. And just out of curiosity, before we dive into the topic for today, What did you find on your journey? Like, how did you, going down that path, did you do like an elimination diet? Did you repopulate? Did you do a whole bunch of candida cleanses? Like, what was your journey there?
Yeah. So I used GI map, no financial connection at all to that lab. I just like their work. And I had Blastocystis hominis, which is a particularly nasty spirochete. Spirochetes are jerks. They like are little corkscrews that get into the gut lining, into the gut endothelium, and create all sorts of havoc, throw off your pH, mess with your digestive acid capacity, and denude the microbiome. I also had Helicobacter pylori. I'm from South America. It's endemic in Latin America. No shocker there. But because my nervous system was such a hot mess, I couldn't fight it off.
Wow.
So, yeah. And so, I did the whole many R system of killing off the bacteria and then rebuilding, repopulating the gut microbiome. For folks out there who are like, wait, is my microbiome a mess if you've taken a lot of antibiotics? That is one of the main things that kills off our microbiome, in addition to having bad bugs like I did.
And even just from what I understand too, and I think you know a lot more about this topic than I do, but also like just bad diet for long periods of time, like a lot of those things seem to create imbalances. Is that also correct?
Yeah, I always like to be really careful with words like good and bad around our nutrition choices. I just don't want to be another voice creating those dichotomies that create eating disorders and orthorexia. But our gut bacteria feed on prebiotics. So probiotics are important, but prebiotics feed the good bacteria. So where do I get those? Carrots, celery, apple, fruit, food, right? Like food versus food products.
Yeah.
So yes, a diet high in super processed food, fast food, is suboptimal when we're talking about feeding our gut microbiome. They're just not going to get the snacks they need to be happy and healthy. Whereas like a big salad, a bowl of chili, it doesn't have to be expensive food, but just as close to its original sort of form, whole form, is how we get the most goodness from it.
Okay, so I love that. So I took us a little bit off track. So from there, you went down this, it sounds like a health journey of searching first.
Yeah.
And then maybe you were hitting a glass ceiling, it sounds like. And that's where you then came into alignment with understanding the function of the nervous system and its impact on overall health.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'd been studying somatics in a way through dance and through movement since college, but didn't really put, 12 and 12 together to apply it to my digestive wellness, right? That just sort of didn't dawn on me until I realized the patterns, right? My brain, not to brag, but I have ADHD. And so my brain loves to see patterns. I know I'm bragging. Yeah. And so I started to see the correlations between my symptoms and my patient's symptoms and how we were living, right? In particular, I started to notice not just nervous system dysregulation, but the impact of mindsets like codependency, perfectionism, people pleasing, and burnout, which we're going to get into in just a second, and how putting ourselves endlessly last meant that our physiology was permanently last, right? And of course, had our limbic system all jacked up and our amygdala, the fear center of the brain, thinking like everything was a constant crisis because we were dead last in our own estimation.
Yes.
It kind of makes sense when you pause and think about it, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so how did you come out of this? Like, what were some things, and we'll dive into the topic of burnout in a moment, but what were some things you found on your journey climbing out of this?
Yeah, I really realized the subtly codependent thinking in my brain. That's sometimes extremely overt, like but like also like the wee subtleties of like, oh, I don't care what we have for dinner. Whatever you want. Girl, I cared what we had for dinner. I cared, right? But there was this voice in my head that said, put yourself last again.
You can't take space. You can't have needs. Don't fringe too much. Or
what if they don't like it? That was a big one of like, what if I make a decision and someone else doesn't like the outcome? Then I'm responsible for their feelings. Oof.
Yes. And underneath that is so big because often there's these core wounds of, then and then I'll be abandoned, or then I'll be liked or rejected, or these pieces of meaning we give to that experience.
It's so powerful. I talk about how there's 3 core essential human needs that are missing in childhood generally that lead us to adopt codependent, perfectionist, and people-pleasing thinking. And I think this tracks pretty perfectly with your own work. A sense of belonging and connection, safety, and validation or worthiness. Right? And when we're not getting those 3 things, we create these stories about our unworthiness, our unsafety, our unbelonging that then track us into dysregulated nervous systems, burnout, and the rest throughout the rest of our lives.
Absolutely. And I think too, it's like we have those deeply unmet needs and we create these coping mechanisms or behaviors like, to overcompensate to get those needs met. But in that adaptation of coping is where we create the breeding grounds for nervous system dysregulation, burnout, and all the different things that we will abandon within ourselves to try to get from others. So I think that's so beautifully said. So going into the burnout piece here, did you experience first burnout in your own life and it sort of came through that and the realization, or is this that you saw through your clients specifically?
I feel like more through my clients, though, I got pretty burnt out with Western medicine, I have to say. I worked at what in the US we call a federally qualified health center, which is code for like poor folks care, which means there's not a lot of care, right? The clinicians are caring, but the system's such a hot mess. And seeing like 20 patients a day, we had 15-minute intakes.
Wow.
Wow.
That's so scary, honestly.
Wow. So, that was exhausting, largely because I care so much.
I was just going to ask.
Right.
Because you can see in your whole demeanor that you really care in that space. And then to have to operate in such a short, to the point, almost blunt way to be able to go through things in 15 minutes, it's like you almost have to go against your truth in a sense.
Yeah, which is hard. It's hard on the heart. It's hard on the spirit. And I don't want to pathologize that, right? Like burnout can be a completely healthy, understandable response to a completely effed up system, right? That is designed to keep people impoverished, right? Is designed to keep up really problematic systems of oppression. So my getting burnt out in Western medicine makes sense.
Absolutely.
The hot mess.
Absolutely. Especially in that particular case. I think that there's probably so many examples we could talk about in
I'm sure.
situations like that. So tell us, for anybody who's struggling with burnout, who's here to listen to this episode for that, what are some of the first original symptoms or patterns you would see so that somebody can really recognize, am I getting burnt out? Is this me? And really have that sort of clarity and certainty that, hey, it's time to pay attention to this.
Right. So building off what we were just saying, that in a way, the more you care, the more burnt out you get. Because if you couldn't care less, it's not going to impact you, right? A lack of empathy or a downgrading of empathy. I don't know if you've experienced this. I'm sure you've seen it clinically where someone's like, yeah, you know what? I can't care anymore. I can't care.
Yes. And so I just want to be really clear there.
Yeah.
Anybody listening who didn't see how important that one was, what you were saying is a symptom of burnout is a downgrading of empathy, in particular if you're used to being a highly empathetic person. And I think that represents that we've gone out of this ability to be in our bodies and really connect, and we have gone into survival mode.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. And so that not caring means not performing. And it's not that we don't care in our hearts, it's that we don't have the capacity
bandwidth, really.
Right? The bandwidth or capacity in our nervous systems, right? It's for my nervous system nerds out there, it's like our window of capacity, or what the literature calls the window of tolerance. I do not like that term, but it's shrunk, right? And we just have such a little bandwidth to tolerate what was previously tolerable, right? And so, of course, we feel exhausted, right? We have headaches, GI symptoms, belly issues, sleep issues. It's hard to get a full breath. Our immune system tanks out, right? For my nerds, T cells, right, get impacted. Our emotions get really heightened as our window of tolerance gets smaller, which makes us irritable, right? We get annoyed easily. We can really get into discursive thinking, right? And get into that negative black and white, all or nothing. And what these all are, it's signs that our nervous system believes we've been chased by a lion for way too long. And so now we're, like you said, in that survival mode, right? So if you think about a gazelle that's been chased by a lion, we both did somatic experiencing training. It's like the first video that you see when you do somatic training, right? Is the lioness chasing the gazelle. So you're the gazelle working this 9 to 5. That's just such a grind, right? You're running across the Sahara because there's a lion, AKA your manager, chasing you, right? And you're like, I just want to race. I just want weekends off
or a break.
Don't text me after 5,
Yeah.
right? Like basic things. And you keep being chased. Eventually, you're just going to run out of gas, right? The lion's going to overpower you. It's the lioness, by the way. It is the women who hunt. And she's going to grab your ankle. So what do? You're a gazelle. What are you? You're going to outbox a lion? She's got teeth, right? You're a little herbivore. So you're going to play dead. It's the smartest move you could possibly make is to play dead. Because when you lie down, when you collapse, and your heart rate gets slower, your breathing gets slower, your cognition, you're not even thinking. You're just like, be dead, be dead, be dead. She's going to notice all of those signs, and she's going to walk away to go get her little cubs to come have a delicious gazelle snack. And so this is you in burnout, right? You're lying down in the tall grasses, not breathing, not thinking, not doing, just a ball of nervous energy because you've just been chased. Mm-hmm. Yeah? I'll pause there.
I just wanted to pop in here and let you know we are doing a 7-day free trial to the All Access Membership Pass at PDS, which means you get access to literally everything inside of the school. And this includes the 4 live webinars I do with our students every single week. And on top of that, you get access to all of our different courses. We have over 55 different courses on relationships, communication, boundaries, emotional mastery, guilt and shame, learning your needs, so many different facets that are really important to master our lives and feel really good about our lives going forward. And last but not least, there's a daily community event. We have trained facilitators and coaches who are in there doing that work, showing up to support you on your journey every single day. Please join me on the other side. Come check it out. See if it's a fit for you. I'd love to see you there. Go ahead and sign up by clicking the link in the description box below.
I love that. No,
I could go on.
A beautiful example. And just, I really think it's important for anybody who's listening who might have seen some of these patterns, because, GI issues are a symptom of burnout big time. And your irritability, frustration, noticing your empathy, when your empathy sort of bandwidth shrink dramatically, all of those things. If anybody's hearing this, what I found all the time when I was in client practice and even through our programs now, like people go, yeah, I feel those things, but I'm not burned out.
Right.
And underneath it is this justification or fear that they have to keep going. And I just want to say to anybody experiencing that, like, it's okay to be in that space and it's solvable and you can get back to normal life, and you're going to get back to normal life faster by pausing and dealing with some of these things rather than to try to continuously glaze over them. And I'm not sure if you've seen that a lot in your practice or in your programs, but it's like, I often find people deny it. Like they're like, oh, I'm having these things, but I think it's just purely a health problem, or it's just purely, something going on over here. And I think the big first part is like, let's actually validate that this is your experience.
Right. And that there's nothing wrong with you, because I think that's the other part. And this is why my work is so politicized, because we have to look at capitalism. We have to look at the fact that in the US, if you don't have a job, you don't have health care. Mm-hmm. Right? Like people can't just walk away from jobs. Right? There are systems that keep us in this grind and tell us from really little that you are your job. That's it. You are your job. You are your career, right? What you do defines you. And so when we come up in that paradigm, of course we don't want to say, well, I'm really burnt out as a school teacher, as a doctor, as a firefighter, as a clerk, whatever, because it's seen as a personal failing and not part and parcel of a system built to destroy workers, because it doesn't care. There's more. We'll make more workers. It's fine. Right? And so when there's not a social safety net, where burnout is inevitable. And so it's really important to me to say, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You don't need fixing. You're not a problem, right? The machine is the problem, not the individual.
The system, yeah.
Yeah.
And so as somebody's moving through some of these different experiences and they're going through a dynamic of feeling exhausted or burned out or seeing GI issues or whatever it might be, where do you recommend they start on their journey to healing?
Yeah. Well, first by giving yourself a huge round of applause for recognizing what's going on and not continuing to deny it, because there's so much pressure to keep going, like you were just saying, right? So just really pause. And when our brains run towards that perfectionist habit, we don't tend to pause. We don't tend to applaud ourselves, right? The codependent mindset is very much that there's safety in not being seen. And so it's fine. So I know it sounds like, okay, you don't need to belabor the point here, but I do need to belabor the point. You recognizing you're in burnout is friggin' huge. And I'm so proud of you. And even if you're like, whatever, it's fine. Like, just maybe keep hearing my voice saying, like, I'm really proud of you for recognizing this, owning it, and wanting to make your life better. And not just your life, right? But you being in burnout has a knock-on effect on all the other humans in your life. So thank you for taking care of yourself and interdependently taking care of your community. So that's A, number one. B, number two is doing a real analysis, like stepping back. And it can be really helpful to work with someone like one of the two of us, right? Or another therapist or coach or other support person, to really take a good look at your life and start to get clear on what it is you actually want for yourself, right? Because so often we sort of come to and we're like, oh, wow, I've been in this job for like a decade. Do I even like it? Do I even want to do this? Right? We're just running on habit. We're often moving through the world very unintentionally. So really making the choice to come into a more intentional, present awareness with our day-to-day gives us that opportunity to ask, like, do I want to learn the skills to manage my sense of self, my time, my energy in a way that allows me to keep doing this job? Or is this the invitation from the universe for a wholesale change? I mean, I know it was for me when I got burned out in Western medicine. It was an opportunity to step into functional medicine. And when that got sort of frustrating and exhausting because it was labs. And I was like, it's feelings and thoughts and feelings, right?
Yeah.
I made change. But that might be possible, it might not be possible, but I think we deserve the opportunity to pause and get curious, no?
I think at the very least, that's a place to start. I think that sometimes definitely people can be like, well, I have 3 kids and I can't pay my bills, or, I understand not everybody can make that change. However, what you can change is how you spend that little bit of free time if you have it. Even if it's like 30 minutes a day, just pausing, self-observing. I think it starts with that observation of our own selves, our own patterns, because it gives us that space to be able to realize, wait, I've been maybe moving through this programmed way of being for a very long time. My actions are on autopilot. I'm just responding to what I think I'm supposed to be doing from my own conditioning or external experiences. And now I'm moving into a space of, this isn't working for me. Whatever programming was here is no longer working.
Right.
And just to start by observing, and even if it takes a long time to make a plan or a transition, even if it takes, weeks or months or years to make a transition, it is going to be better than moving back through that same space, especially when your body is telling you, no, this is no longer working.
Right. And I can hear my somatic experiencing professors saying, when we can't change the circumstance, we can change the way our soma or our body relates to the circumstance, right? And so doing that work to really look at both your mindset, because listen, if you're driving to work every morning and you're going grumble, grumble, how are you going to possibly feel? Right? It's like psychology 101, my sweet, sweet, sweet angels, right? Like we learned this in high school psychology. Your thoughts create so much of your felt experience. And then we can back up to say story follows state in the nervous system. What does that mean, my nerd? Well, that the state your nervous system is in, and there's 3 dominant or dominant, depending on who you're talking to, states. We can get into that in a second if you'd like. You let me, it's your show, you let me know. But the nervous system state we're in dictates the thoughts that are available to us. And so the way I think of this is like a card catalog. I did marry a librarian. But so there's these little card catalogs, and one is labeled fight or flight. One is labeled that frozen, collapsed, checked out sort of sensation we were talking about before. One is called ventral vagal, which is the chill, social, super present part of the nervous system. And the fourth is called Fawn, which is kind of what it sounds like a deer in the headlights, just trying to keep everybody happy with me. Do you like my spots? Do you like my cute brown ears? You know? And so each of the nervous system states has a story available with it. So if you are driving to work and your nervous system is all jacked up and you're anxious and you're worried and you're making it mean so much about who you are as a person, if you succeed, if you do it well, if people like you, if you have success, and your nervous system is in fight or flight, also called sympathetic activation, the thoughts you're going to have are pretty intense, anxious, worried, right? Whereas if you're checked out, were you going to say something?
Oh, no, I was going to say, and it's important to start like having a point where people can observe this within themselves. Like everything is feedback.
Oh, for sure.
Seeing that, I was just going to add to your point, which is if somebody is driving to work and they're noticing those,
yes,
that in and of itself is feedback. I think we spend a lot of time identifying with those thoughts rather than observing them.
Yes,
and being able to recognize that feedback that it's giving to us. And so just to highlight your point there, I was like, the more we can start being present and noticing these things, it's very beneficial.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because if not, we but we continue to believe we are our thoughts.
Yeah.
And we are our feelings. Just the same way we believe we are our job. I mean, we're quickly getting into non-duality here, which like, please, let's go. But like, you are not your thoughts. You are not your feelings. You are not your emotions. You are not your job. You are not your relationship, right? You are the consciousness under your consciousness, watching your consciousness. Right? And if that maybe went a little too philosophical, cool, what it means in practical terms is when you believe you are your thoughts and you believe your thoughts are true, then you're always going to live the life you've always lived. And if that's working, great. If you're a happy little wombat in the forest and your thoughts are, I'll eat more leaves, great. But if your thoughts are, I hate my job, I hate everyone there, I hate everything in my life, baby, that sucks. Right?
And I think that's the place that we really want to grab that from, is to be able to notice. So let's take a quick break for our sponsor. Have you ever signed up for a cell phone plan that seemed affordable only to be shocked by how much your bill ends up costing you each month? Because I know that's happened to me. And I feel your pain. Mint Mobile is here to recuse you from those unexpected charges with premium wireless plans starting at just $15 a month. And when they say $15 a month, they actually mean it. All plans come with high-speed data and unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Plus, you can use your own phone and keep your current phone number too. Switch away from overpriced wireless plans and get 3 months of premium wireless access for just $15 a month with Mint Mobile. To get this new customer offer, go to mintmobile.com/Thais, Thais. That's mintmobile.com/Thais, Thais. There's a $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. If we can go through the 4 states and the symptoms that somebody is in each state, they can notice for themselves listening.
Oh, God, I love your brain. Okay, so let's start with ventral vagal, the safe and social part of the nervous system. That's when we just feel super chill. Like, that's how I feel talking to you. We're two hyper-educated, very nerdy women who are passionate about this stuff, talking about our passion, right? And for folks who are very well trained in the nervous system, I'm going to keep this super simple. Yes, I have a little bit of sympathetic right now because I'm excited, but take a breath, all right? We're keeping it simple. All right, we're going 101. Ventral vagal is chill, right? It's everything is cool. I'm cool. My body's putting out a little acetylcholine, a little adrenaline, right? We're just sort of floating along. Now, if I were to hear a very loud noise, a big scary noise, my body would go whoosh, up into sympathetic, into fight or flight. I would be flooded with adrenaline or norepinephrine. Eventually, if the scary continued, cortisol. It's a late stage molecule. And so that's, something scary. I have to respond to the scary, right? So before like, oh, wow, that's a lioness chasing me, that's fight or flight. Our bodies get flooded with endogenous, is it cannabinoids? No, the cannabinoids are in dorsal, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right. So our bodies are getting flooded with panic juice, effectively, to put it non-scientifically. We feel racy. We feel anxious. We feel like the average New Yorker anytime, day or night, right? Just like go, go, go. There's something worrisome. And my hands start moving fast. When I talk about sympathetic, my speech starts going fast. My breath is up at the top of my chest. My heart rate is going up. My pupils are going pinpoint. I can't really see the periphery so goodly because I'm focused, right? Everything's narrowed on survival.
Yes.
Yeah. This is no way to work, have a relationship, parent, be a friend, garden. Yeah, this is no way to live, but we get, I don't want to say stuck, but we get habituated to being in this state when it's the state we're habitually in.
Exactly. And especially if anybody comes from a background where they had to be in that kind of state growing up, or that was their norm, or they were conditioned to really stay in that space, to be vigilant for survival purposes.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. And so that's, again, sympathetic or fight or flight. Now, let's go back to, you hear a loud noise, right? Let's say you're a kid and you hear a loud noise and you don't know what it is and you get scared. You're playing in the backyard alone and you cry out for an adult, right? It's called an attachment cry. If no adult comes, you get a little more sympathetic. And you cry out and no one comes and you get a lot more sympathetic. We go first to flight and then to fight. And if that doesn't work, we eventually, what are you going to do? You can't keep screaming, right? You realize no one's coming and your body begins to shut down, right? To sort of acclimate to the fact that you are cold and alone and there was scary and no one came. And so your body prepares for what it must assume, of evolutionarily speaking, is impendent doom. Death, doom, destruction must be nigh, because we are pack animals. And you cried out and no one from the pack came to be by your side. So we go into despair, we go into freeze, disconnection, and our nervous systems collapse into what's called dorsal shutdown. I'm positing these things as sort of binary. You're in one, you're in another. Yeah. It's not binary.
A little more complicated, but
stay with us.
Such important things for us to be not aware, to understand how they all come together.
Yeah. So I teach about this on a 0 to 10 scale. So 0 is like ventral vagal, you're chill and a little anxious, a little like, oh, is that my bus stop? That's like a 0.5. And then you're like, oh, no, it's fine. It's the next stop. It's cool. Right. And then 10 is panic. And so 10 in the other direction of dorsal is catatonic. You're at Bellevue Hospital. You don't know what's going on, where you are. You're checked out. Right. And so most of us will go into like a 3, 4, 5.
Yeah.
Right. Like just checked out, not present, sort of frozen to our emotions and to the world. We'll complicate things by adding in Fawn, which is a mix. Do you want me to add in Fawn and functional freeze?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I love that.
Fawn is the state of appeasement, right? It's a combined nervous system state that's also combined with our socialization and conditioning. It's something we learn in response to the world as a way to try to stay safer. Yes. And so Fawn is the outward, like, oh, I'm fine. Everything's fine. I'm okay. Are you okay?
I'll just do it
what
for
about you.
I'll do it. Okay. Don't worry. Yeah.
And listen to the register of both of our voices. They just went up. Yeah? So the vocalization and vocal tone is a huge part of recognizing the nervous system and what state we're in. We both just went into this. Hi, I'm a Disney princess and I'm here to take care of you, right?
Yep, definitely.
Wild. And then functional freeze is sort of the same as Fawn, but the flip in a way, right? It's where we are completely frozen inside of ourselves to our own emotions, but we're hyper functional on the outside. functional bicapitalism standards, right? Where, I don't know, getting masters in public health and fancy medical degrees from UCSF and like running a functional medicine practice, but feeling really shut off to our internal experience of life as a survival skill, because it wasn't safe, generally speaking, in childhood to be present in our bodies.
Yes.
Again, this is a continuum. It's not an on-off switch, it's a volume switch. And if you're of a certain age, you know that that's a dial, not clicking your thumbs. But yeah, those are the four main 4 to 5 nervous system states.
I love that you shared the details and the symptoms and how people can just recognize who maybe for the first time. And you know, thank you for sharing the roots on them as well. And how do these things then make the next obvious leap into burnout?
Oh, sure. I mean, yeah. So like the kids screaming for help, for most of us, burnout looked like telling our colleagues about what wasn't working, telling our partners what wasn't working, but we didn't get help that actually helped. Then we went to our managers, we didn't get help. We went to their manager, we didn't get help, right? We went up the chain, right? Or if you're a stay-at-home parent in burnout, right? You told your partner, you tried to join a community group, you did the things, you raised the red flag, you said, help, help, help. I'm going into sympathetic activation. I'm moving from that ventral vagal chill towards workup, towards panic, towards this isn't working, right? You were doing that functional freeze thing like a duck where on the surface, right? It's just gliding, but under the little feet are going so fast, right? And you're just trying, and it's not working. Eventually your nervous system, you know, glands can't get exhausted, but let's just say they can, right? You go into a fatigue state.
As an analogy, yeah.
As an analogy, right? Where you get so exhausted from trying so hard to get help that's not forthcoming that you just friggin' can't anymore. And this is that exhaustion, that lack of empathy, that loss of empathy.
Yeah.
Because it was there, right? This is that muscle pain, that joint weakness, that tummy trouble, right? We tend to... Yeah, go ahead.
And I think that that's why every single person, I've yet to see an exception to this, is that every single person will actually watch that before they burn out, there's first the sympathetic dynamic where they're in overdrive, and then it reaches this climax, and then all of a sudden it's moving in the other direction. And so, so I think that those are also important symptoms that people can catch earlier if they just realize that they're in that state. And then when somebody's coming out of that state, or when somebody recognizes they are in a full burnout state, what are the big strategies that you recommend?
Where possible, rest. Like checking out, really giving your nervous system, your physiology, a chance to really reset.
And can you describe just that piece of rest in more detail? Because in my experience, people are like, okay, rest, sit on the couch, watch the television, have my in the background, and go through social media and scroll and get all those dopamine hits from Instagram at the same time. And I think we want to define, like, for somebody who doesn't even know how to rest or has forgotten how to rest, what does rest mean to you?
Yeah, rest to me means no significant inputs. Right?
Reset,
Yeah, I was going to say no inputs, but like I love sitting on the back porch and like the dappled sun, watching it in the yard and listening to the birds and petting the dog. So no inputs that take us out of presence. That's what it is.
Beautiful. Wow, I love that. That's my favorite
good.
definition.
Someone put that on a t-shirt. That's good, right?
It's going to be the quote for the show.
Right?
Today.
I love it. Yeah. So it's input, right? Because all of those inputs I just shared are impacting my nervous system, but in a way that makes me more and more here.
Yes.
Because burnout at its core has to take us out of presence, because what we're present to sucks. And we're not fools. We're not idiots. We're not going to stay present to it when it's so gnarly. So we leave presence, which means we leave it intentionality, which means we can't be our own best advocates because we're not there, right? So I want to, of course, as always, pass the mic to BIPOC folks. Always. Trisha Hersey is the Reverend of the NAP Ministry. If you don't know her work, her last name is Hersey. She's a Black woman who writes and talks all about rest as an act of political rebellion and resistance. And she does gorgeous work. You should have her on the show.
Okay, I'll definitely.
If she wants to come on my show, please. I would love to have her. Oh my gosh. She's incredible. So rest is really, an act of resistance to a system that wants to burn us out and is really coming home to ourselves. And so I really encourage my clients. It's funny, I was coaching about this just yesterday in Anchored, my 6-month program. Someone said, like, how do I get out of freeze? And I said, girl, you need like 10 minutes where you're not on your phone every day. And I get why it's challenging. I mean, these little blue light moving image boxes mess with all of we were talking about our hormones and neurotransmitters. Like,
Absolutely.
It F's with everything. So giving yourself, I like to encourage 90 minutes in the morning between waking and both caffeine and internet.
Yeah.
Which
is like less than 0.001% of the population.
Oh my God. Right? Yeah, I know. But
it's true though, because these are not natural things. Like I have a laugh because how rare is that for that?
I know, right?
Something wired into like our awareness of possibility, but just having that space, especially if somebody's in a burnout stage, to be able to go, okay, you know what? I actually really need to do this to nurture myself back to wellness.
Right. And give ourselves, if 90 minutes is like ridiculous and you're like, no, to heck with you, lady, fine, fair, totally heard it. How about 5 minutes?
Or 30 minutes, even if somebody can fit in that 30 minutes, get up a little bit earlier, have the ability to really connect to your body, like just see what's going on from a space of presence rather than all of the distractions and all of the things that happen all day long through your phone, through all of the many, many places our attention is pulled towards.
Yeah. And then also like getting curious about the root causes. Like, why are you looking at your phone so much? So in the pandemic, we left Brooklyn and moved upstate New York. And it's been a very lonely experience. It's kind of like a hard place to make friends, which is shocking because I'm such a gregarious Leo. So at some point, I found myself going on my phone a lot more when my partner was at work because I work from home, and realized after a month or two, I was like, oh, I'm lonely. Right. And so my social engagement system and my nervous system is attempting to replace human contact with a phone, which is never going to do it.
Yes.
But like feels like enough of a Band-Aid for like a hot minute that you don't realize what's happening. And so, I was only volunteering then like 4 or 5 hours a week. So I upped it and started spending more time with people, giving back, being of service. And my desire to grab my phone just kind of evaporated.
Yep. Which is so powerful. I love that you were able to really identify that root cause.
Yeah.
Now, we have to wrap in just a moment. You've shared so many powerful things about burnout and the nervous system and all these different ways that we're affected. What would be one key piece of advice you would give to somebody as they're leaving their stage of burnout? Because you've given lots of tools for when they're coming out of it or trying to escape it, in a sense. Even if escape is the right word, but but as they're coming out of that and they're starting to see reprieve and they are feeling better and they are being more present and getting out of this freeze state, what advice would you give to somebody in that space?
Like really thoughtful returns to presence. So here's what I want to say. Don't let yourself backslide. Right? Because it's normal and natural and human, and you get to this burnout state and you do all this incredible work to heal your body and restore yourself. And then 3 months, 6 months, 3 years down the road, you're back in it. So we don't need to get the hyper vigilant, but having regular check-ins with yourself, with your journal, with your breath, with your partner. I love an accountability buddy. I think it's the most important thing. So maybe like you set up a monthly call with a dear friend, like the kind of friend who will be super duper honest with you and like have a check-in, right? And like put it on the calendar. Like my friend Sarah, Judith, and I, every Monday morning, 10 a.m. without fail, we have a call, right? And if one of us is busy, it's 2 minutes, but we check in.
Yeah.
So let your community support you, and just recognize that once that neural groove in your brain is sort of laid down that says, I'm going to go into burnout, I'm going to be a perfectionist, I'm going to go to there, it's kind of in there, right? Like it's a habit that's easier to go to.
Yes.
So just keep a little gentle little eye on you, my sweet little teddy bear.
Beautiful. I love that. That's fantastic. Okay, so please tell our listeners where they can find more about you and your work, and tell them what you're up to next.
Yeah, well, you can find me at victoriaalbina.com, and I want to invite you to go to victoriaalbina.com/personal development school, because we have a special treat just for your listeners, which is so much fun. It's a suite of meditations, guided inner child exercises, orienting exercises, nervous system exercises, totally downloadable, yours to keep for free, just for being a listener to your amazing show. Yeah.
And are you on any other channels?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm just really excited to share that. So yeah, so that's the free audio.
I love that. I love that, by the way. That's
it's
fantastic.
fun, right?
Yeah.
You can find me on the gram. I give good gram at Victoria Albina Wellness. I have a fledgling YouTube, and I don't actually know the URL, which is pretty fun.
That's okay. Tell them where you can search. What's the
I bet if you put my name in, Victoria Albina, you'll find me. It's so funny. Like, I'm just sort of starting to do it. It's so much fun. And my podcast is called Feminist Wellness. It's for humans of all genders, and it comes out every week. It's for free. My 2 programs are called Anchored, which is a 6-month coaching, breathwork, and somatics experience, all about codependency, perfectionism, and people pleasing. And the Somatic Studio is my somatics training program, and it's 12 weeks. And I'd love to have you check them out. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I love how in detail you go in all of your explanations, and how thoughtful and kind you are just about all of these details in people's lives in a really real way. And thank you so much for being here today. It was wonderful getting to know you this week and chat.
Such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you so much. If you enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to subscribe, rate, and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Share it with friends and family who are on their journey of personal development and growth, and thank you for listening. Next week, we'll be back with more insights to guide you on your journey. And until then, keep practicing our tools and strategies to change your subconscious mind and apply some of the powerful learnings from this podcast so that you experience real life transformation.